about the meeting minutes for June 12th?
I think we just did those, didn't we?
I thought we did the 29th.
Did 12
Oh, did
first.
you say the 12th and the 29th?
I think we did 12 and 29.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't hear the
okay.
12th. Okay,
All
sorry.
So I need a motion to have a consent agenda to vote on P1 through P26, E1 through E16, OP1 through OP8, and F1 through F9, and PO1 and PO2. This is
So
just a
moved.
move for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Bogdansky, thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Dr. Lorenz, thank you.
Mr. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mr. DeLate,
Yes.
Ms. Amalo,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Ms. Mariani,
Yes.
Ms. Anch,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes. Okay, and then I need a motion to actually vote on the substantive provisions of P1 through P26, E1 through E16, OP1 through OP8, F1 through F9, and P01 to P02. Anybody want to make that motion for
So
me?
moved.
Mr. Bogdansky, thank you.
Second.
Ms. Mariani, thank you.
Mr. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mr. DeLate,
Yes.
Ms. Amalo,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Ms. Mariani,
Yes.
Ms. Anch,
Yeah, are we voting on them?
We're voting on the substantive portion of these agenda items.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I thought,
No,
we're just voting on, like,
Not the consent agenda. This is actually the substantive vote for these items.
so
Did
we're
you want to
voting on
change your
what we're
vote?
putting into the consent agenda.
No,
Or are we
did that
voting?
We're
already.
voting on the agenda, the whole agenda, all the
Yes.
items.
We already voted on the consent agenda.
Yeah. So did you need to change your vote?
Okay, thank you so much,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
King.
I do, I'm sorry, I just
Okay, that's
misunderstood.
okay. We're
Don't
still
we need
doing
to
the-
vote once the votes are taken? Isn't it, don't we need to now have a vote in order for them to change their votes?
No, because we're still doing roll call.
So is this roll call or it's voting?
It's
Sorry.
voting. It's voting on, you can change your vote, Ms. Emila,
On the complete agenda.
on the complete agenda, yes.
Okay, sorry,
It's okay.
I
We want to
had it
have a
right now.
fully informed vote here.
Okay, so, yes to everything except E7, E8, and E11.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
E7, E8, and E11?
Okay.
I
Did anyone
forgot where
else-
we left off. Where were we, Ms.
Well-
Demetrio?
Did anyone else need to change their vote? I left off with Ms. Mariani.
Does anyone else need to change their vote?
Okay. Ms. Anch?
Oh, wait, I didn't go, did I?
No, no, she's actually calling on people for the first time. She didn't get to you yet.
Okay.
You didn't vote yet.
Ms. Anch?
Right.
Ms. Anch
Yes,
did not
she's
vote.
voting for the
Okay,
first time.
I thought we were going in the.
No, 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 it's
Never
okay.
mind.
Doreen, you voted?
No, she did not.
Okay, so yes to all, but no to E7, no to E8, no to E11, yes to F1, but abstain to PO number 23-06151 for $67.38. Yes to P5, but abstain to P5C.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sullivan?
I think Miss Mariani goes next.
I did Ms. Mariani. She said yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I thought she thought. I was confused, just like Ms.
We
Emilo.
wanna-
I'm sorry, then I need to correct that because I thought we were just voting
On the consent agenda?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I am yes to everything except E7, E8, and E11. Those are no's.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes to everything except for E7, E8, and E11.
Okay. So,
You okay, Miss Demetria?
yep.
Okay. All right, that brings us to, just a a minute, let me get there. I think we have another public comment. Yes, we have another public comment, so I can have a motion to reopen for public comment.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Anch. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mariani.
Yes.
Mr. Delete,
Yes.
Ms. Emilo,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Ms. Mariani,
Yes.
Ms. Anch,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes. All right, anyone else wish to speak?
Audrey Souders, Oakland. I wanted to comment on E7, E8, and E11. Can you, first of all, I have privacy concerns about children using the school to provide mental health services. With these partnerships, are these mental health services being reported back to the school? And what information is the school able to gather from the information? And it's a two-way street, and I find that extremely concerning, particularly when you're talking about mental health and a student's privacy and HIPAA violations. I would like to know if over $100,000 was spent on furniture for the wellness room, which if it was, but again, I'd like to know, where is this room? Where is this room located? Are people, other students walking by this room and knowing what's happening in the newly well-furnished room so that their privacy is they're gonna know what's happening? Like if you're getting a math tutor in the math tutor class, are you gonna walk by this room and know that this student's getting mental health services? I mean, how are you ensuring a student's privacy to take advantage of these services? I'd like to know what we are gonna do when the IDEA grant and the ESSER funds runs out. When do we need to use our ESSER fund money up by? At what point? Is it next 2024? I'm not certain. And I'd like to know, when you say that the students are in crisis, I'd like to know if you can define that in a manner that I can understand. That have there been 25 students looking for mental health services and they haven't been able to be provided? Like I want to know what that means in a more concrete fashion. I wanted to add online financial literacy class. This is going to seem funny, maybe, but if you really think about this, and we're talking about mental health, and we're talking about young, impressionable children, particularly female students who are inundated with image and things on social media. This is what was in Chapter 1 of Online Financial Literacy this summer. Millions of animals are slaughtered daily for food. Some products contain animal byproducts. The manufacturers perform painful tests on animals to make their products. You can decide to purchase cruelty-free products and commit to consuming less meat or no meat at all.
Ms. Souders, I'm so
Question.
sorry. Your time is up.
Question: how can consumers use their
Miss-
spending power
Ms.
to prevent
Ms. Souders.
cruelty to animals?
Um,
They can
Ms. Souders.
eat less meat.
I think you're out of time.
I understand.
You can return if no one else wishes
Okay.
to speak per board policy and finish your comment. And we still have time in the 30-minute period. I'm sorry.
Hi, Michelle Clancy, resident of Oakland, special education teacher, Indian Hills High School. I am not speaking on behalf of the Ramapo Indian Hills Education Association. About 10 years ago, probably 13 now, the Thrive program at Indian Hills began. I am the head teacher in the Thrive program, and it's upsetting to hear about the students' mental health, and without giving away confidentiality, there are about 20 students in the program who are associated with a Thrive counselor, and it's not open where anyone can see. They go see the counselor when needed. They come to the classroom and I teach them in the classroom. So I don't understand why E7, E8, and E11 was voted down. 13 years this program has been at Indian Hills and has helped all of these children without sending them out of district. These children in my program used to go out of district. We saved the district a lot of money with the Thrive program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wish to speak?
Elliot Bannon, Wyckoff. I'll make it quick. I have 3 questions, 2 for Dr. Dionisi. I'm not trying to pick on you, honestly. It's just you're the only one that can answer them. So give me the first 2, which is, first of all, thank you for defining the culture. But I still don't understand why we needed the shift. Were we not welcoming to all of our students? I guess I'm asking, why are you calling it a shift? I think that's really what kind of got most of us. The second question for you is, you didn't answer the questions about the 16-19 project, so I hope you'll just take a few minutes to do that. And then finally, which the question that I ran out of time the first time, but I'll ask, which is, if a teacher teaches something that's considered controversial, whether it's gender theory, talking about pronouns, things that are theories, they're not settled, and they're very controversial. What do you, the board, this is for everybody, I guess, do you have a plan? I would suggest you say, look, I don't think it's a good idea to tell anybody not to teach anything, but you can say, listen, if you teach these things because they're controversial, then you are required to teach the other side simply because they're opinions. And your job as a teacher is to foment discussion, right? So that's how I would do it. But I guess I'm asking you, if we know, they said, the history teacher said, we're going to be teaching the 16-19 project, or parts of it, right? What are you going to say to her when we say, hey, look, there's a ton of experts in the area that have a lot of issues that are very legitimate, and shouldn't those be presented as well and let the students make their own decisions? So what are you guys going to do about it? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Philomena LaForgia, Oakland. Vivian Uden King announced her re-election last week, but she dropped her middle name, Udens. I wondered if this is because the Udens Appliance brought a lawsuit against 4 Flow parents because they raised questions about the RIH vendor, your parents who employ you. Your tagline is United for Students, but are you really? While you were chair of the policy committee in 2022, you changed the policy to only allow agenda items, and then you made the dance and the girls lacrosse team wait until the late hours of the second public session to be heard. Then you invite Oakland residents to email you because you want to hear from them. That is so laughable and sad. You haven't been listening to anybody for 3 years. Your track record includes not adding more time to the public session, not allowing parents to speak on curriculum. You told parents on a Facebook post that I'm not sure what parents should control what is taught in schools because they are not our kids originated. And then you went and informed them, like they didn't know, that parents can then send them to a hand-selected private school because we are a wealthy district. Mrs. King, you use words like transparency and statements like being engaged. It is apparent that you lack self-awareness. You are non-transparent, In fact, if you were transparent, the district wouldn't be spending over $25,000 because you can't answer a simple question like, why was your name appeared in the Indian Hills commencement brochures in perpetuity with special honor of awarding the diploma in 2021? That's transparency, and you don't care. Well, I think you are all kinds of wrong for this district, the board, the town, and I am launching my own Not Vivian Newton King campaign, so people know that, and I can expose you for all the lies you have made up there, and all the hypocrisy that you sit there. Go ahead, Ms. King, laugh it up. I hope we had a close-up of your face, because everything is funny to you. And Mr. Dr. Lorenz, yes, there is such a thing as over mental health. There absolutely is. And I wish you guys would actually opine on what you think that website actually does, because I bet you guys didn't even go to that website and check it out. Why don't you sign up for it and see what it really does? And Dr. Denisio, so incredibly disappointed with you tonight.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wish to speak?
Joel Anch, Franklin Lakes. This is my opinion. It does not reflect the opinion of Franklin Lakes Town Council. Curious about the disparity between Hills and Ramapo. As a parent, even before Dr. Dionisio got here, there was disparity between these schools, and I would assume this was a big issue for a long time and should have been brought up to him at the time of his employment. I can't imagine it wasn't. Now in the strategic plan, that's going to be addressed in June of 2024 in Initiative 4.4, and that's just to examine the enrollment disparity, nothing more. Dr. Lorenz wrote a whole analysis on Facebook with his views on this. Whatever happened to that? I haven't seen or heard anything. The whole ice hockey issue emanated from this disparity. That affected a lot of parents, coaches, and students, many of which came to meetings to express their feelings about the same. Vivian Newton King's family abandoned Hills for Ramapo, an Oakland resident, so her son could be on the ice hockey team there. I don't see her doing anything about the disparity either, as she is also on the athletics committee, part of the problem. This is something the superintendent should have addressed immediately upon his employment, not 2.5 years later. Vivian King also voted to reinstate a teacher who gave my daughter an illegal survey and made 2 boys read scenes about masturbation in front of the class and sexualized my daughter, and I'll remind everybody, that's the only reason I ever got involved here. Period. I wouldn't even been here if that didn't happen. You voted to reinstate that teacher. I'm sure glad you're proud of yourself. I find it pretty ironic that Ms. Koulakordis was going to come chime in, zoom in, when she was the one that voted against in-person meetings. It'd be nice if she believed what she voted for, when people were maybe worried about listening if they were in a car, and that's why she voted against it. Or when it was a 7-2 majority, the other way around, there was always 1 or 2 people that were absent and missed meetings constantly, all the time. I don't ever see that happening anymore either. Thanks, Dr. Dionisio, for telling us how safe the students should be and how this is all going to make everybody feel safe. Well, how about trying to get some security in the building? Last year, there was a credible threat that the school had, was brushed under the carpet. No one said anything. Some students never came to school. Others left early. No one even addressed it. I don't really think that's making anybody feel safe. And if there's security in here, it's not just for students. It's for faculty, it's for teachers, and for staff, and everybody else alike. And thanks, Dr. Lorenz, professor of CRT at Ramapo, for telling us how there can never be too much inclusivity, diversity, or DEI. I really appreciate that too.
Thank you so much.
Kathy Schwartz, Franklin Lakes. I'm actually a little bit sick to my stomach right now with what's happening. I can't believe that you don't feel that the mental health of our students is worth spending money on. I had written a few points to talk about legal fees tonight, and I know I sound like a broken record, but let's just look back at what we do spend money on. The cost for our general counsel in 2022 for an entire year of legal services was $114,000, one whole year. The bill from Bush Law for 4.5 months was over $158,000. $158,000 for 4.5 months versus $113,000 for a full year. That brings our total cost for general counsel services for this fiscal year to $271,000. I think by my calculation that is a 137% increase in legal fees. And that's just for legal counsel, regular legal counsel. That doesn't include all the ethics charges, that doesn't include lots of other things that are out there. I'm shocked that you think it's okay to spend money on that, and you think it's okay to spend money on PR firms and communications services, and you don't think it's okay to spend money on the mental health of our students. Thank you.
Carol Eng from Wyckoff. I'd like to finish what I started earlier on. In the past 3 years, Vivian Uden-King's actions and behavior do not reflect a prioritization of students' welfare. She did not volunteer herself in serving on the education committee, where she could have had a more direct impact on student experiences. Instead, she chose to chair the policies committee, where her priority was in suppressing public comments, making students wait for hours to be heard, raising questions about her consideration for student participants. Her focus seems to be on her own elevation, causing obstacles for board initiatives, and using her family business to sue parents of students who asked questions. How is her behavior and actions benefiting students in any meaningful way? As vice president of the board and chair of the policy committee, she had ample opportunities to make a positive difference for students. She had the power, the control, and majority vote. She could have demonstrated initiative, intelligence, and creativity in promoting, advocating, and protecting our students, but she chose not to. Let's face it, Vivian Uden-King is not interested in students. Her track record shows it. Her voting record shows it. And her behavior on the board shows it. Forget the rhetoric and the campaign speeches. They mean nothing. Action speaks louder than words, and her action speaks volumes. Students have been left behind. And in her own words, elections has consequences. We have seen it. She has done nothing to benefit students during her time on the board. Oakland residents, vote no to Vivian King in November.
Thank you so much.
Karen Nash, Franklin Lakes. This is always a little high for me. I don't think anyone here is saying mental health of the children that go to school here is not important. I think what we're saying is that it's not your business. It's for families to decide that. Maybe some people don't, maybe some of the kids don't have that advantage of being able to go to their mom or dad. But in that case, why don't you pull that student aside and ask them, or bring in the parent and make it a family thing still? I don't understand why you're taking it upon yourself to try to get the mental health of that child, to have that. What I'm trying to say is it's just really not your business. They come to school to learn so they can go to college and move on, not to have you judge them or judge what they should be doing to acquire mental health. Why do you have anything to do with it? I don't understand. I went here, as I tell you all the time, we didn't have that in place, and we're all doing just fine. The world is still as hard then as it is now. The reason that our children are in crisis is because we're allowing our children to be in crisis. They don't have any identity. We just went through COVID. Things are being forced down their throat. It's really not for the people here in this building to decide whether or not a child is mentally healthy or not. It's not for you. It's for families. It's for doctors that are out there that are accessible. I worked for Christian Healthcare for 5 years. There's a place there you can just walk in if you'd like to for the children's mental health that goes from age 2 to 92. Why wouldn't you use that instead of somebody here in this school? I would like an answer to that. I still haven't gotten one. I don't really know why you're taking it upon yourselves to decide what children need mental help with mental health. I don't even know how you identify them. How are you identifying them and pulling them in to these programs? I don't understand. I would like somebody to please explain that to me at some point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we're getting close to the 30 minutes, so.
Margaret Bennett,
if this is-
Franklin Lakes.
I'm sorry, could I just finish, Mrs. Bennett? If the board wants to hear anybody else, we would have to make a motion to extend the time, so. Unless you have a number different, are we over yet? So we still have a few more minutes?
10 minutes.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
Nice try, Judy. Margaret Bennett, Franklin Lakes.
I wasn't trying anything.
Margaret Bennett, Franklin Lakes. Dr. Dionisio, I have several questions. First, I want to make sure that I understand what just happened here tonight. It's a 4-4 vote, so it didn't pass. Is that correct? That was my count. Thank you, Ms. Zeno. Wow. Dr. Dionisio, I don't know how you can respond to the level of ignorance that is in this room right now. But please try and go on the record for us as to what this actually means for these programs that have been in place and for the children that they serve and the need for this. I mean, I'm literally going to cry at what just happened here tonight. And I can't imagine how you're feeling and the phone calls you have to make in the morning to scramble to try and figure out how you're going to make up the gap for these programs. And I challenge this board to find any school district where a board has done this, where a board has just stripped these critical programs that have been in place for years to serve the students who, yes, are in crisis, that it does actually exist. More ignorance. Doreen Mariani, you can read all you want from that website. It does not change the laws. You and other board members went out without the superintendent and decided to hire somebody. You're not allowed to do that. You have a board council. I keep hearing, oh, our board council suggested this. Well, you have a new board council. I've had very limited experience with her, and I am pretty confident that she will tell you you're wrong. I'm not a legal counsel, but I know the administrative codes that are in place that protect our school districts from people like you to spend money, to run the school districts, to usurp the tasks of the superintendent. And thank you, Dr. Dionisio. If you could please give a detailed analysis of what the result of this vote will mean for those kids.
Thank you so much. I wasn't trying to cut you off, Mrs. Bennett. I was just checking the time.
My name is Mary Ann Kopp. I am a teacher here at Indian Hills, and I am speaking on behalf of myself and not as a executive member of the Ramapo Indian Hills Education Association. I wanted to get up to continue with what Michelle Clancy said, because I also teach in the Thrive program. Michelle is the head teacher. I am one of the off-period teachers, as you could put it. I'm also a special ed teacher here in the district, and I'm disheartened by what I'm hearing from from what happened up on the stage, by what also parents are saying. We don't allow kids to show up and have counseling without parent approval. We don't let things happen willy-nilly. Our kids are in crisis. It's been happening for years. I've been a teacher for 17 years. I've watched things happen. I've taught here. I've taught in other districts. It's what's happening. And if we don't embrace it and see what's coming down the pike, things are going to happen that are not going to be pretty. And the fact that we are saying that we need to allow just the parents, and yes, parents need to give approval. We don't just allow these things to happen. We need to, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm just so disheartened at this point. But we need to really think hard about the decisions we're making and what we're doing for our children. Reading, writing, math, social studies, science are extremely important, but so is the mental health of our students. I have children, and I worry about their mental health every day, and we have to worry about the mental health of every student in this building also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wish to speak?
Audrey Souders, Oakland. I didn't finish. Online financial literacy. How can, I want to give you the answer. Here's the question. How can consumers use their spending power to prevent cruelty to animals? The answer is eat less meat. That's the question in financial literacy. Now, you're kind of like, why are you even wasting your time talking about this? When you have a 15-year-old impressionable young girl, perhaps, who has some type of image issue and starts thinking that if she eats something, meat, steak, whatever, she's being cruel to animals, and this is what you're providing in our financial literacy class, this is the kind of stuff that leads to mental health issues.
Any other person wish to speak? All right. Can I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mr. DeLate,
Yes.
Ms. Emilo,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Ms. Mariani,
Yes.
Ms. Anch,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes. All right, anyone have any board comments? It is 11:37 p.m. I'd like to try to end this meeting before midnight.
Ms. Sullivan, I have comments.
Oh, so
I
sorry.
want to respond to the public.
Oh, yes, of
Thank you.
course. Mhm.
So, there were some questions regarding culture shift. I believe I already answered that in regards to mission, vision, core values, and beliefs. Should you have any questions regarding the 1619 project or any questions related to that, I encourage you to contact Ms. McDermott directly, and you could speak to her. And I'll just say that our teaching is defined by the curriculum that we have in alignment with our state standards, and the curriculum that we develop and implement is age appropriate and it's fair and balanced. What I'll also share is, in response to the majority of the conversation around mental health this evening and the work that the district has been doing for quite some time. The resolution this evening, E7, E8, and E11 did not pass. It was 4-4. So absent a majority, it did not pass. I will also share that this is the first time as a superintendent that I had any indication that those resolutions would not pass, even out of conversations in the committees that we've had. As I shared earlier, anytime we have partnerships with mental health professionals, with families, there are confidentiality agreements that are in place. There are signed releases that parents have to provide. Parents willingly participate and partner with the school district and with resources outside of the school in order to provide the necessary supports for their children. We have well-intentioned and caring parents, and we have the same with our faculty and staff and our counselors and administrators. But we do have families that need help. We do have families that need guidance. We do have families that need direction because they don't know where to go, and they don't know what to do. And yes, we have kids and we have families that are in crisis. And I lean on the counselors, the teachers, the child study team members, the administrators, who are the ones who are actually interfacing directly with these families, confidentially, to support them, to meet their needs. Kids and families that are crying for help, that whether we like it or not is going to impact learning in our classrooms and in our schools. And they're kids who are sitting next to your kids. And sometimes they are our kids. They're all our kids. When I realized that this resolution wasn't going to pass this evening, and I'm speaking about E7, this program has been in effect for over 10 years. I also went and looked in my files, and the 3 counselors that serve our students are serving over 50 students over the course of the year. That's a lot of kids. The challenge we have now in front of us is that school starts in about 6 weeks. And my concern is that we're going to have these families who are now going to be wondering what's going to happen in September. My concern, and I need to clearly communicate this to the board, is that there are a number of different layers here that I am gravely concerned about. Number one is addressing the social, emotional, mental needs of these kids, of our children here in our schools each and every day. Secondly, this is going to not only have an impact on their learning, but it's going to have an impact on other children in our schools as well. Third, there has been a great deal of concern that I've heard over the years around out-of-district placements for special education and what are we doing to keep kids in the district. Well, I can tell you the quickest way in order to make sure that you're going to increase your out-of-district placements is going to be to not provide this program. We're actually moving backwards. And I don't have to tell you what the financial implications are going to be on all of those decisions, which not only robs our special education students and our students who need the counseling supports, but it also robs of our financial resources to provide general education resources and all other kinds of needs for our school district. I recognize that for some people who are not intimately involved with this type of work, that it may be hard to understand what the schools and the services are that we're actually providing. And it is amazing that we have so many families that are fortunate enough to not have a need for these types of services. But I can tell you that the number is a lot larger than you think it is. And I cannot underscore enough as to how significantly concerned I am as your superintendent of schools that we're in this situation, and we are going to now have to respond to these parents and their concern as to what we're going to be able to provide and what we're going to be able to do in September. Thank you.
Okay, now we move to board comments. Anyone wish to be heard?
I'd
Dr.
just like to
Lorenz?
make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a student in this district, after what just happened, I don't feel included. That's the inclusivity part. I don't feel equal. That's the equity part. Really cannot believe what just happened. I said when I was running, we need not worry about this is Dr. King, we need not worry only about the vitriolic words of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. This community needs to pay attention to what just happened and what Dr. Dionisio just said. Really disappointed.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to share one more thing. In a review of what the district is actually paying for, I want to just go over E7, E8, and E11 for the board. So I already talked about E11. That's the Care Solace opportunity that existed before the board. So that was not passed this evening. So that's an opportunity. So if a family is in crisis or having difficulty with a service provider and trying to get counseling services for their child outside of school and navigating the health insurance, or if they don't have health insurance, Care Solace helps provide them with mental health providers and substance use providers in order to get services for those children. That's 100% selected by the parents to participate in. The school district is not requiring parents. It's just an additional opportunity and a service to help them meet the needs of their children. Right? So parents, the adults, are the ones making the decisions for their kids. So that did not pass tonight. E8 is the Sage Thrive partnership. This is the training and certification and coaching program in order to be able to expand and build capacity with our existing talented faculty and staff, our counselors and child study team members. This is what we discussed in our Education and Personnel Committee in order to be able to scale in a cost-effective manner, essentially mental health support, training more people that we currently have on staff. Be efficient with our dollars in order to leverage that so we have more people reaching out to our kids. That did not pass tonight. And E7 is the counseling program through SAGE that we've had for over 10 years. And this was that shift as well with Care Plus, where we reallocated. We actually saved some more money by doing that. That cost was $370,000. It is realistic that we could potentially lose, and that number will be double based on the number of students who are currently in the program. It is not unfathomable that we can have 5 to 8 students go out of district, and out of district placements will run the Board of Education approximately $100,000 a student with transportation. So those are some additional impacts that I want the board to understand. And I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Anybody else?
Ms. Sullivan, may I be heard?
Sure.
In the event, because the next board meeting is not until August 28th, in the event that anyone would like to reconsider tonight's vote, it could only be reintroduced by a member during a tie who voted no. That's
It
just
can what?
informational.
I didn't hear what she said. It could only be reintroduced what?
In the event the board would like to reintroduce tonight's vote,
Mm-hmm.
in order to do so, because your next board meeting is not until August 28th,
Yes.
a member of the board who voted no would have to reintroduce it. And then you could take action this evening if you desire.
And it could be the case that the committee could meet again and reformulate the proposal. Could it not? Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I have a question about that. Are you saying that someone who voted no right now could reintroduce it this evening? She's saying this evening.
Yes, I am.
Not waiting
I'm aware.
until the
I'm aware.
24th of August.
So I wanted to respond to some things Dr. Dionisio said. So you were aware that there were questions about this matter, and I believe I informed you by email that I had some significant concerns about this, which I also expressed at the committee level. So it's not the first time that my questions or anyone else's questions were raised. I wasn't planning on doing this, but since there seems to be a lot of criticism about a person's votes, I'd like to explain my vote. So for the Care Solace, I'll start small. The Care Solace contract, it's a startup company, and it was not described in the Education Committee that they serve, I forget how many hundred people, somebody said here that they serve. And I actually asked a lot of questions about this. The first time it came before the committee, had it been reviewed by council, and it had not. And so I asked if it could be reviewed by council at the last Education Committee meeting because I was concerned about confidentiality and for students' privacy. That is the cornerstone of how mental health for students can be supported. And it hadn't been run by council, and that worried me, that something like this hadn't been run by council. So then it was ostensibly reviewed by council at the next meeting, but there was no report to the committee about exactly what council's concerns were, what their changes were, how they were going to address these issues. There was nothing. It was reviewed by council, and that was it. So I know I'm not allowed to call vendors, and I don't call vendors, except once. At the last meeting, I was authorized by council to call DCO because the $1.4 million proposal to have the board vote on it was placed on literally the agenda in its full entirety a day or two before the meeting, and nobody understood what was happening with respect to the proposal. But anyway, so I went online, I just typed in Care Solace, and I found the Cherry Hill School District is using them. So I said, okay, so there's two ways you can use them, anonymously or through something called something handoff. I can't remember what it is. Try this if you want to go anonymously. So I did. It's not anonymous. The first question is, what is your sex? I can't recall, but I think it said male, female, or binary. So I checked female. And then the next question was, what is the age of the student? So I said 14 years old. And then the next question was the race of what the student is. And there is a decline to answer. I checked decline to answer. And then I typed in, the student is looking for psychiatrists within 15 miles of Oakland who have suicidal ideation issues. And it came up with a list of providers. The first one had a little checkbox that said verified by Care Solace. And that was a major institution. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was like Hackensack Hospital or Christian Healthcare. The next one was a retired doctor who's not practicing anymore. Now, the reason why I knew that was because I opened up a separate tab and checked. And the next one wasn't a psychiatrist, it was a psychologist. And the next one wasn't a psychiatrist, and it was a psychologist. And then I opened up, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it. You can add what insurance company you have. And I did. I put in my insurance company. And then I opened up a separate tab in the provider list, which is easily ascertainable from my insurance company website, as to how many providers you can ask for mental health supports. So I checked the names that they said took my insurance, and none of them were correct. And these are some of the questions that I raised in an email. These are the questions I raised at the committee level. How does this help? You're going to send a parent or a guardian to go to this website, and it's going to be worse than just picking up the phone and calling an insurance company. That is my vote. You can criticize it. You can say what you want about it. I didn't think it was something that was going to help parents or guardians, whether children were in crisis or not in crisis. Oh, and I forgot to mention, every time you typed in to see a doctor and pull up more information about on that list, there was a pop-up. Would you like us to make this appointment for you? Every single time. and you had to X out of that screen. So I just thought, this isn't really helpful. It's just creating more barriers for the students to get help. And I wasn't convinced, and I'm allowed not to be convinced in my vote, that this isn't something that's going to help parents. That's just going to send them off on another. It's basically looked like a Yellow Pages to me. And then the person who made the presentation at the committee made some representations which troubled me, and I've never gotten good examples for that. That you can pull up something called an impact report, so that who is using the service, I wasn't sure if it was anonymous or something that would be referred to by a guidance counselor, you can dig into the data. And then the school can make decisions about the resources that were coming from this data. And I thought, my goodness, is that really scientific? Is this based on how the firm demonstrated when I did the Google tab search? I thought, this just isn't for us. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the $10,000. It just seemed more confusing to me. So then we'll go to Thrive Alliance. The first time I saw the Thrive Alliance contract was on the agenda for the Education and Personnel Committee on Monday night. The meeting was the next day, and it was a heavy agenda. And I asked lots of questions about this. I didn't understand what the need was for the third counselor. There could have been a need. It wasn't demonstrated. It wasn't demonstrated with any kind of data. I wasn't told that there was a waiting list for students. I wasn't told that, that this clinician was somebody that we really needed to add this third clinician. I didn't have a problem really with the clinicians that were already here, but there was a third clinician that was going to be added that would be full-time here for 37.5 hours a week. So then I started looking around because I just didn't have the right guidance. I'm trying to see, well, do other school districts do this? It seems like a lot of clinicians, 3 clinicians, and I understand we were getting rid of Care Plus, but it just wasn't really made clear to me on the committee level what this person was doing. And then my biggest fear was realized when I found Thrive Alliance counselor testified against a family in a special education matter where the parents brought a heartbreaking case about their student in 4th or 5th grade who just couldn't get the IEP supports that they wanted. And I've heard this story before, over and over and over again. They gave the student a Thrive Alliance counselor. It didn't help. It made it worse and worse. This is the biggest problem I had. That Thrive Alliance counselor testified against the parents and the student in the due process case. Do you know how upside down that is? Do you know how horrible that is? How fearful? It's not one example. Go to the OAL website. Look how many people who are in a healthcare role testify against special education parents who are trying desperately to get IEP supports for their child.
Excuse me, Ms.
If
Sullivan.
the agreement would be something
Ms.
that would say
Sullivan,
something.
Ms. Sullivan, can we get back to what Ms. Zena was saying about whether or not, and I mean, I understand, you had a bad experience, but
I didn't have a bad experience. I'm not sure. I have the
expressing a
floor.
bad
You're not
experience,
recognized.
but
You're not recognized.
I'm never recognized when I'm making a point.
Because you
am I?
always
Point of
interrupt.
order.
recognized
Point of
when I'm not
order.
recognized.
Excuse me.
I'm
Point of
making a
order.
point of
Sullivan
Point of
is
order.
I was making
Ms.
a
Sullivan
point
was
of order.
speaking.
She's speaking.
I was making a point of order through
You are
her
out of
speaking.
order.
I'm not out
You
of
are
order.
out of order.
I'm making a point of order.
You are out of order.
I'm making a point of order.
You're not recognized.
I'm making a point
You're
of
interrupting
order.
another board
You don't have a right
member.
to not recognize a point of order.
What is your point of order?
My point of order is that you are going off topic. You are going on, and it's almost 12 o'clock, and I would like to stick to the point of this issue right now.
I'm speaking directly to the point.
No, you're not. You're going off on a tangent.
Your point of
talking
order
about
is
other
not
things.
recognized.
No, you're never recognized.
It never is, because you
Never.
don't like it when somebody gives their
Never.
own opinion.
No,
You just want to
it's-
have the floor.
That's not it.
Anyway,
You're completely
so what I'm
off on
saying
this.
is that there was the cornerstone of confidentiality and trust has to be unbreakable for mental health supports. It really does. So what student is going to go for these kinds of supports? I thought, maybe there are students who go. That wasn't demonstrated to us. I wasn't told that there were 20 students in the program. But I heartily support mental health. But it has to be done the right way. It has to be done with the student believing and feeling, and the parents and the guardians and this board feeling that those students can have confidence, that their trust will never be broken, that whatever they say to that counselor will never be revealed. And it's not just one experience. Go look at the due process cases on the OAL website. Have a look. So that was why I voted. Has nothing to do with disregard for mental health. How dare anyone say that any board member on this board doesn't care about the overall health of every single child in this district, including their own? That is ridiculous. This can be re-reviewed. It can be brought back up to the committee. It can be shared in a different way. It can be reformulated. And yes, we can do a motion now at midnight for a board member to change their mind, but I'm not changing my mind.
I have something to say now. So I had a really positive thing to say. It's basically just 3 sentences, short and sweet, talking about the RAHEA, talking about Dr. Dionisio bringing in, block scheduling, talking about how wonderful it's going to be next year to watch the strategic plan be implemented. And I'm just absolutely horrified by what just happened. How dare I not like what just happened? How dare I be offended by the fact that maybe my child will not have access to mental health if he needs it? How dare I? The fact of the matter is that you 4 have made decisions that affect the entire student body. You don't believe in it? You don't want your child to participate in it? Don't. What about the child who needs it? What about the family who doesn't know where to turn? You didn't like what you read in the OAL? That doesn't mean that someone else didn't benefit from the Thrive program or didn't benefit from the mental health facility they chose to go to. I just heard person after person walk up to that podium and spew hate. I can take it, I'm an adult. But they also use terms about the LGBT community, about transgender people, about people who are in crisis. Just deal with it? What about the people who can't just deal with it? I'm absolutely mortified, horrified. I don't have enough adjectives to describe the disdain I feel right now for what just happened.
Anybody else wish to make a comment? It's very late.
I'd like to make a comment, Ms. Sullivan.
Mr. Lee, yes, if you could just watch the time.
I find it highly ironic that the same people who were voting down mental wellness funding or defunding mental wellness for students are the same ones that are going out on a limb to find public relations firms to help sanitize decisions that are made on this board.
Wrong. Very wrong.
And I'd like to thank Ms. Mariani for quoting the advocacy trade group website, but I'm going to quote for you New Jersey Administrative Code 6A 23A-9.4, Section 14, which is actually the reason I had to make a phone call to begin with. And I'm sure the taxpayers of this district are probably grateful that I helped save $28,000 on extraneous services when we're defunding wellness programs. Section 14 reads, and this isn't an advocacy group, this is actually New Jersey code. Public relations services are incorporated into the duties of the superintendent, SBA, and or other staff positions, and are not provided by a dedicated public relations staff position or contracted service provider. So, I'd like to think about the fact that we not only saved money on their services, but probably saved additional legal fees on yet another ethics complaint, and likely thousands of dollars in legal fees that would have gone with that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Sullivan,
Ms. Sullivan.
may I be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Brodansky, if just
In
line
light
the
of
time.
Yep, in light of what just happened, and I'm extremely disappointed, I'd like to know what can be done for us to get back on track, to address any of your concerns, to get the Thrive program back on board to help save our students. I think we need to have that discussion, and I think it needs to move forward. Thank you.
You can call a committee meeting. Chairperson can call a committee meeting at any time.
And I shall tomorrow.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, Ms. Mariani? Just mind the time.
I would like to address Mr. Delate. The purpose of a communications firm has absolutely 100% nothing to do with the look of this board. That is absolutely untrue. Absolutely. It was never discussed for that reason. It was never brought to committees for that reason. And anyone on this board has the opportunity to look at the proposal. It says nothing about this board. That was not the purpose. So for people to keep saying that, it is so irritating because you don't know what you're talking about. Not just you personally, but since you just said it, I want to reiterate that that was not the point of a communications firm working with the RIH district. Not at all. Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan, I just have one sentence to say, please. I'd like to give an opportunity to those of you who voted no. As Ms. Zeno pointed out, if you'd like to make a change and put it back on the agenda and vote on it again, this is your opportunity.
That
to-
was
to
already,
right- to
that
right
was
the
already,
wrong.
that was already communicated.
I'm communicating it again. I don't need you to say that.
The anticipated future meeting dates are Monday, August 28, 2023. This will be the proposed curriculum changes, public hearing / regular public meeting, Rampo High School auditorium. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bogdansky.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ansch.
Mr. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mr. Delate,
Yes.
Ms. Emilo,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Ms. Mariani,
Yes.
Ms. Ansch,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. Good night.